inflation. We did our, about 2 weeks ago, a wall of inflation. We showed everything that was up in price. We actually ran out of room on our giant wall at CNBC, but it sounds like you're not that concerned about it right now. How come?
Well, I think inflation at the moment is going to be running a little bit hotter than expected just because the demand is so high. We have been in our homes for so long. We haven't been really spending a lot. So the demand is hot and manufacturing has been less. So, supply is lower. So in the shorter term, inflation could run a little bit hotter. However, the forces that were in place before, disinflationary forces that were in play before the pandemic, have only accelerated through this pandemic. So as you look through to 2022, I think you will see that inflation will actually start to moderate, somewhat from where it is here. Let's face it, you've covered lumber prices, for multiple weeks now. Lumber prices cannot continue at the same pace. At some point, either demand's going to give, or there's going to be so much more supply that's going to come in that's going to moderate those prices.
Yeah, and we talked to a home builder about that as well, and of Taylor Morrison, and Cheryl, the CEO, said, we can pass that along for now. I mean, I guess that's going to be the key. As long as consumers will eat the cost, companies can pass along that cost, other customers can eat it, it won't be a problem. Do you and your team see any sign where it's simply not going to be passed along because that's when margins get hit, that's when profits get hit, and I assume that's when EPS and earnings multiples would get hit?
You're absolutely correct. It's empirical that the companies can pass on those higher costs to maintain those margins. So what you want to do is you want to tilt towards higher quality companies where they can raise prices, they can pass on those inflationary commodity costs, and their margins can continue to increase. So those companies are really characterized by strong management teams, strong franchises, strong companies that have goods that consumers actually want. So those companies you can find across a number of different sectors, not just in commodities, number of different areas. Take, a company like Honeywell, for example, it has very strong management team in industrials and it can pass on those higher costs. Where I think companies will get into trouble are really what I would call the middleman. The middleman is where it will intake all the higher inflationary costs from commodities, but cannot pass on those costs. And those are companies that have goods and services that feed into other goods.
Well, it sounds like your regular viewer of the show, by the way, Linda, and we certainly do appreciate that. Thank you very much. Also, not a viewer. I'm not just a viewer, I'm also a guest. But, so we've talked a lot about semiconductors. What a battle, right? Yes. Shortages, what does it mean for them? A lot of investors have gotten nervous. You remain long and strong on many of the semiconductor companies. How come?
So semiconductors have already corrected roughly 10% or so. But if you again think through the demand that's going to be coming in from the considerable amount of savings that the consumer has, which hit all-time highs, this week, essentially, you're going to get another stimulus that's going to come through for the next, 12 months or so. You're going to have European growth coming through, Asian growth coming through. Demand is going to continue for semiconductors. And unfortunately, with this industry, it's not so much flicking a light and you can produce more. It takes quarters. It takes, very long time to do manufacturing, do the appropriate licensing and so on to bring those chips into those goods. So it's a really, really long process to bring supply online. And you're already in a situation where lead times are extending and inventories are 30 to 40% below averages. So I do think that semiconductors, at some point, supply will catch on. However, for the next few quarters, I think you still want to be long semis till you'll see the lead times start to come in.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.